Ever wonder what happens when the most famous, most secure plane in the world has to suddenly abort its mission? Well, we're about to pull back the curtain on the secret protocol for when Air Force One is forced to turn around mid-flight.
I mean, think about it. This isn't just any plane. It's a flying command center, the White House at 30,000 feet. So what on earth is the plan when something goes wrong and it has to make a U-turn?
So, put yourself on that plane for a second. You're 7 hours in, way out over the middle of the Atlantic, probably heading to a big global summit. And then the news trickles through the cabin. We're turning around. On a normal flight, that's just chaos and confusion, right? But on Air Force One, it means a highly choreographed split-second operation is just kicking into gear. Yeah, this is so much more than just changing direction. It's about rolling out a flawless protocol where literally every second counts. Every single move is designed to control the story, maintain security, and make sure the US government stays fully operational, even from miles above the ocean.
You know, the first thing that happens isn't some crackly announcement from the pilot. Nope. Before anyone else, a press officer quietly goes to the back of the plane to brief the journalists on board. And this isn't just a courtesy. It's the first critical step to get ahead of the story before it can spin out of control and cause a worldwide panic.
So that quiet briefing with the press, it kicks off a whole communication cascade. First, that private word. And only after that's done does the official overhead announcement go out to everyone else. The second that happens, it is all hands on deck. The military and medical staff, they've got their own section on the plane, and they are immediately on their feet and moving to their action stations. See, every single person on board is part of this highly trained team, and they all have a very specific role to play. This is not a passenger list. It's an operational unit. So let's look at how these key players spring into action. Okay, so you can see here everybody has a clear job. While the senior staff are busy securing the nation's most sensitive secrets, the medical team is getting ready for literally any possibility. But the real linchpin here is the military attaché. They are the critical link between what's happening in the air and the operations on the ground, and that role becomes absolutely vital the second the plane touches down. And here's a detail that just shows you the precision of this whole thing. The first person to step off that plane, it's not the president. It's the military attaché. The moment their feet hit the tarmac, that's the signal. The ground operation is officially a go. Now we get to the really, really big challenge. You're not just moving people from one plane to another. You have to move the entire White House. There's always a backup aircraft ready and waiting, but actually transferring the sensitive heart of the US government is just a monumental task. This is what they call the mobile White House, and believe me, that is no exaggeration. One source literally calls it gobs of information and material. We're talking about the entire operational nerve center of the presidency, all packed up and ready to move at a moment's notice. Just think about what that means. You've got secure computers, encrypted communication systems, stacks of classified documents, and all the briefing books for a huge event like the Davos summit. Every last piece of it has to be accounted for and moved to the new plane with incredible speed and absolute total security. Okay, so once the president and all that essential equipment are sorted, there's one last really tricky question to answer. What do you do with the press corps? They need to get to the destination too, but are they all going to fit on that backup plane? And this is a serious logistical headache. The main goal is to get the whole mission back on track as fast as humanly possible. But trying to cram the full contingent of staff, security, and more than a dozen journalists onto the backup Air Force One, well, that might not be the smartest or fastest way to do it. So basically, you've got two choices on the table. Option one, you try to squeeze everybody onto the new plane and take off together. Or option two, you split everybody up. The president, key staff, and the core pool reporters go on Air Force One, and the rest of the journalists, they get their own separate charter flight. Well, according to our correspondent, who's been on Air Force One more times than they can count, that second option is way more likely. Why? Because the number one priority is getting the president back in the air, wheels up. Trying to get everyone on board would just create a bottleneck and slow the whole thing down. And you know, this isn't some new, radical idea. Flying the press on a separate charter plane was actually pretty common back in the day. So in a crisis, the team just goes back to what's been proven to work. It's a classic divide and conquer strategy to keep the mission moving forward. So what all this really shows us is that an Air Force One turnaround isn't just a flight diversion. It's a full-scale, high-stakes reboot of a mobile command center. It really leaves you with one last thought, right? If this is the insane level of planning for just a mechanical issue, what does the protocol for a real global crisis look like? It's just incredible to think about the logistics that are always running silently in the background.